Yes, you're listening to Business Podcasting Made Easy, the TV talk show formula, where you get a roadmap to elevate your authority and expand your visibility with the TV talk show that you're proud of. You're listening on the IBGO radio network, and this is episode 43, The Power of Preparation, Streamlining Pre- and Post-Show Production for a Flawless Interview. Welcome to the show. I'm Donna Cundy, co-founder of the IBGR.Network, global radio authority and podcast expert, and producer of over 14,000 podcasts.
And I'm Declan Oceguera, TV producer and international TV talk show host. And my TV talk show formula has impacted over 100,000 lives globally and gives business owners and entrepreneurs a simple way to be seen and heard with their own purpose-driven message. And we are your hosts for this 13-week journey.
I know, 2 more weeks. Oh gosh.
I only get to say that a few more times.
But we're not going anywhere.
We're not going, right, stay tuned. Remember, you can easily follow the plan at tvtalkshowformula.com. And if you want direct live support from us for your TV talk show, contact us today at tvtalkshowformula.info. And we were just saying before we went live here that this episode would be a really good time to check in with us because you might want some support on what we're going to share with you today.
Yes, absolutely. And it is all about preparation. Our friend Benjamin Franklin, not Ben Joya. We like friend Joya too, but this is our friend too, yes. Ben Franklin. He said, by preparing to fail, you are preparing to, no, by failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. Good golly, this is words today when we go live. So that's Ben Franklin, by preparing to fail, you are, Declan, take over.
I love it. Benjamin Franklin said, by failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail.
Thanks.
Sometimes, it takes two.
Yeah. So this is all really about becoming a person worth watching by being prepared and never missing a beat, so you can show up confidently every time, even when you mix up the quotes and other things happen.
Right, exactly. So actually, this is a great, example. Here we are doing this live show, and sometimes, things happen, right? We've both been doing it through these episodes, and who cares? We keep going, right? Because we have a plan. Actually, we have a structure for all of this.
And we do care. That's not we don't care.
Yes, we do care. What I mean is, like, it's not going to stop us, right? And this will happen to you as a host, for sure, and a guest. And you know that what you're there to do is more important than anything that might not go according to plan. And that's actually kind of what we're talking about here anyway.
We talked about that last week too, I think too.
Yeah. It comes up a lot.
Yeah.
So where do we want to go from here?
What do they need to know?
Well, here's what you need to know. So every successful TV talk show uses a well thought out checklist. Because by having your checklist, knowing everything that needs to be set up, you're going to be able to eliminate roadblocks and problems before they happen as much as possible. Because when you're live, when you're recording, things can happen out of your control, and to the extent that you can eliminate those in advance, you'll be doing yourself a big favor, because it can become very flustering and overwhelming when you don't know what you're doing, right? So I like to think about this as like you're an airplane pilot, right? And I don't know if you know, but before a plane ever takes off, there's lists and lists and lists, checklists of making sure that everything is working, mechanically, system-wise, the flight plan. There's a lot of work that goes into it. And no one is allowed to take off, we hope, without all of those checklists being done and everything checks out, right? It's all a green, it's all a go. And your show, you want to think of yourself exactly like that, because in this case, you're not only the host, you're the producer, right? So you want to know, your checklist would include, I call it a pre-show systems checklist, right? So what are all the things I'm using to make the show happen? is my laptop plugged in or charged? You know, are the lights working? Did I turn them on before it was time to make sure the bulbs are working? Like, are they plugged in? These kinds of things that many of these things we've talked about in previous episodes, everything you need, right, to run your show. Create yourself a checklist, literally. And I would go through it every before every show, at least an hour. I like to do it in the beginning, an hour ahead of time. The more you get familiar with what you need to do, then it'll take less pre-work. Then you can get it down to like half an hour, right?
Yeah. A quick story, if I can.
Oh, yes.
I was in the military band and we went to do a parade,
Oh,
and we called them pre-execution checklists. We
Yeah.
always had to make sure we had our equipment, we had our music, we had everything we needed to do to prepare.
Yeah.
And we arrived on site in another state and started unloading the bus for a parade. And our drummers unloaded their cases, and there was cases and no drums. So we had drummers and no drumming, and we had to actually call the National Guard to get their drums and use their drum. I mean, it's super important that you show up with the right equipment every time.
Yeah.
That's my story.
No, that's a perfect example, right? It's no different with your show, right? Because then what do you do?
Yeah.
Like, and you had a backup plan though, right? We're going to call the National Guard. Luckily, you had that option, right, to get the drums there. So it's just the same thing here. So not only do I talk about a pre-show systems checklist, but you also want to have a post-show systems wrap-up, because once you're finished with the show, now you have things like recordings, right? You have video recording, you have audio recording. You may have other things that you need to do to make sure that things that you need to make sure that you do so that you can take your material to the next phase of the process, right? So you have pre and post. Same thing goes for your guests. So I have a separate checklist, just in its very sexy name. It's my pre-show guest walkthrough checklist, right? And what are all the things I need to do with my guest in those maybe 15 minutes before we're going to go live? How do you pronounce their name? We talked about that in a different episode, right? You know, how's their lighting? Are they centered? Like, there's things I'm going to walk through with them that they may not have done from the guest, how to be a guest email that they received, right? This is your chance, because you don't have a lot of time usually in advance of going live. So I have a pre-show guest walkthrough, and then I have a post-show guest wrap-up. So before I even do my post-show systems wrap-up, the guest is still there. We wrap everything up. I thank them for being there. I tell them what happens next. I remind them that they get to share this episode with their community. Whatever things I need them to know, I applaud them for being there, right? I'm grateful, because now this person, I may not know them very well, and even if I do, we've just done something important for their business, not just mine, right? And so I want them to feel appreciated, but also to build the relationship, because this person just became more important to my network, right? Besides, they may end up being in a chapter of a book when we turn the episodes of the show into a book down the road, right?
Oh, goodness. Yes. Because that is all part of it. You know, when you're following the formula, it is about, we have a podcasting formula, we have a TV talk show formula, and we have a book formula.
Yeah.
And it is about building your network and positioning you and your messaging.
Ben Joy is going to like this episode.
Yeah, indeed.
Two shout outs so far, Ben.
Yeah. And as always, if you want live direct support from us for your TV talk show, you can contact us today at tvtalkshowformula.info. Be sure to subscribe to the TV Talk Show Formula at tvtalkshowformula.com, because we'll have more episodes coming. We'll have guests coming. Maybe you even want to be a guest on one of our shows.
Ooh, that was good. I like that little plug. Yes.
Indeed. And so now we segue into what you need to do. What do we want our listeners to do?
So it's time to create the checklists. So you're going to create 4 checklists minimum, pre and post. So it's 2 pre and post show production checklists, and also pre and post guest checklists, right? So just think through all the equipment that you're using, all the systems, anything that's related to the show, what you need to have, make sure it's working beforehand, and what you need to do with stuff afterwards.
maybe
right?
even a packing list. Like
Like
if you go, if you
yeah.
go remote, do you have everything you
Oh,
need to plug in? And
that's a great point, because sometimes you may be a digital nomad, you may be a location independent person like me, right?
Mhm.
And so I need to know, what do I need to have? And even when I came on this trip originally, I knew,
Yeah.
well, I may be doing shows, so what do I need? My ring light, you know,
Came
my
on this trip that you ended up never leaving.
that I never, the trip that never ended. Yeah, literally though, this lavalier mic, there's some things that are here that were from my studio setup in San Diego, that I
Mhm.
knew at a minimum I need these things, because I was, you know, I was also shooting shows that were actually, you know, training content for my Authority and Visibility Accelerator program, because I was doing live training every week on that. So that was a great point. It wasn't even in our notes. Love it. Let's talk about that. Very important if you travel. So you're going to create those 4 checklists. I like to, it's a little old fashioned now, but I like those, I liked to print out on
Mm.
paper
Mhm.
so I could physically check stuff off. You can do it on your digital devices. Yes. I just felt like paper was better for me, because it was harder to forget stuff that way. But whatever works for you. And so the action you're going to take is, yes, now you are created your checklists, and really it's, you want to create the habit and the discipline of using the checklists every time. I can't stress that enough, how much peace of mind you will have by doing it, because you will invariably catch things that you will forget, because you got a lot on
Like
your
missing
mind.
drums.
Like missing drums, yeah. Oh, right. Or, you know, do you even have the guests correct stuff? You might have the wrong person's things. Like, there's just so much stuff. And you don't want to be thinking about this, trying to remember these things. That's why the checklist is like, oh, right, check, check, check. Oh, forgot that. Got to plug that in. Oh, you got it.
Mhm. Yep. It's just one of those things. And I like that you said the discipline to use the checklist every time. There,
Totally.
you'll have your 100th episode and think, oh, I've got this down pat. And that's gonna be the one time that
Promise.
it's missing. Mhm.
Exactly.
So be sure to create those checklists, print them out, and use them. So ending episode 43. The power of preparation, streamlining pre and post show production for a flawless interview. You're listening on the IBGR network. I'm Donna Cundy.
I'm Declan Oceguera, and we'll be back after a short break. And thank you for listening.